Hello, everybody. Welcome to BS session number 107. I hope I've got that right. We're talking with Jen McDonald tonight, and I'm solo, at least for right now. We'll see if that continues. Welcome to the show.
This right here has the ability with a 30 caliber clip to disperse with 30 bullets within half a second.
Just when I think you couldn't possibly be any dumber.
You're listening to your weekly dose of BS, Ballistically Speaking. The Ballistically Speaking Podcast.
Well, here you were expecting to have stunning conversation with a group of 4, and now it is hopefully going to be stunning conversation with a group of 1.
It is going to be great. Absolutely. Everyone else, I guess, just dropped out.
Optimism. That's what we need at times like this.
Oh my God. Ever.
I think that Mike and Derek should be joining us a little bit later. They got, I don't know, they work for a living or something crazy.
Oh.
So we'll see what happens with that. But we don't really need them anyway.
No.
Why don't we take one quick second, Jen? Let's introduce you to all the folks. Then I'm going to have to pay a couple of bills, and then we'll kind of get into the meat and potatoes of everything. What do you say?
That sounds great. Absolutely.
Okay, go for it.
All right.
Who are you? What do you know? What do you do? And why are you here?
Well, why am I here? My name is Jen McDonald. I'm the managing director of CSAAA, Canadian Sporting Arms and Ammunition Association. They are Canada's firearm and hunting industry organization. So they represent all of the businesses across Canada. I am a hunter, an angler, sports shooter, board member at my local gun range, and huge firearm advocate. So yeah, that's me.
Do a couple of gun things.
Yeah. I do a couple of
not too many, but a couple.
Not too many, just a couple of gun related things out there. Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe I need to find some non-gun related hobbies.
But do you though?
Nah. No.
You know, I was talking with one of my students the other day, and a lot of my students don't know that I co-host a podcast.
Okay.
And I for whatever reason, I kind of, as much as possible, I keep those two worlds separate, which is kind of funny because I'm into guns and I'm into martial arts for the exact same reason. For some reason, I have an obsession with violence and understanding violence and controlling violence in a healthy way.
Good.
So I don't know why I keep them separate, but I do. Anyway, I was talking to one of my students, and they were mentioning that one of our other students was looking for some good podcasts. And she said, like, do you know any podcasts that I can recommend to Chaz? And I said, well, I suppose you could recommend my podcast. And she says, what?
You have a
and I
podcast?
said, yeah, I co-host a podcast. It gets like 15 to 20,000 views a month. Like it's a national podcast. It's not massive, but you know, it's pretty decent.
Worth listening to.
Yeah. And she says, what is your podcast about? And I said, well, it's about guns. Well, she says, what's it called? And I go, it's called Ballistically Speaking. And she says, is it one of the, she's like, I have so many questions, but I don't know if I want to ask any of them. I said, well, why wouldn't you want to ask any questions? You're obviously curious. Ask me some questions. She says, well, is this like one of those like crazy alt-right kind of, and I was like, no, it's nothing. So I find myself having to, and it's so funny because this person obviously likes to engage in violent pursuits. We were literally on the mats practicing murder, like 30 seconds after she's worried about my gun podcast being some crazy alt-right thing. She literally puts her friend in a choke and is about to choke her unconscious unless she taps.
And practice murdering her.
Yeah, exactly. Like it's such a weird dynamic. But
that's true, eh?
Yeah, I found myself having to explain to somebody who just tried to choke somebody unconscious that not everybody who owns a gun is a lunatic.
Yeah, most of us aren't.
And this is exactly the same thing. If she was at her, local PTA and she told everybody that she trains Brazilian jiu-jitsu 5 times a week, she would have to explain to all the other soccer moms that she's not a lunatic, and
That's
it's
so
okay. I don't actually choke her unconscious. She taps and I let her go.
taps out.
Everything is just like context, right?
Yeah, and it's putting it into perspective for people. Like, I find the media and Hollywood kind of pushes that any gun owners are crazy extremist, rightists, all that, and
Yeah,
it's just like, "No, we're normal people."
exactly. Well, and all of that is to say you probably don't need any non-gun hobbies. You're probably doing
Exactly.
just
Yep.
and apparently I'm going to make the news tomorrow. I really hope that Eugene, let's call him Eugene. I really hope that he's not a journalist. Anyway, uh,
Don't rat
I
us
got to
out.
post some. Sorry, say that again.
I said, "Don't rat us out, Eugene."
Please don't rat us out. Don't share us with Polly.
No, oh my god.
I need to take just a quick timeout here and pay some bills, and then we're going to get right back into talking about your stuff here. So I need to let everybody know that our sponsors tonight, our show is brought to us by Call Sign 66, Canada's best rifle training. Welcome to the Brotherhood. Book a course now at callsign66.ca and follow them on Instagram at callsign66 and on Facebook at C/S66. Also, Ribstone Gunsmithing, craftsmanship done right. Contact Oscar at ribstonegunsmithing.ca and breathe life back into any firearm. And March Scopes Canada, the Dion Optical Design line of rifle scopes has a scope for all of your hunting and shooting needs. Find Doug and Niza at marchscopes.ca. Also, Apex Optics. When you buy Apex, precision comes standard. Check out all the fine competition rifle scopes, red dots, and binoculars at apexoptics.co. The Atom and Fusion red dots are here. You can get them. Get yours today. Also, EM Precision Rifles in Vegreville, Alberta, building Canada's finest precision rifles. Find Shane and Steve on Facebook, Instagram, and on their website at emprifles.ca. Also, Bolt Action Coffee, bringing specialty coffee to the precision shooting world. Order coffee and merchandise at boltactioncoffee.com. Odell Engineering, pick up a Canuck shotgun or Bergera rifle from your local distributor and tell them Phil sent you. Look them up on Instagram, Flakebook, and on their website at odellengineeringltd.com. They've got all kinds of cool goodies that are still available on the Canadian market. They got magazine-fed lever guns. They got shotguns. They got semi-automatic 22s. They've got They've got 357 Magnum lever guns. They've got the whole 9 yards. So check them out. And Sterling Arms International, home of the R18 Mark III and the R9. Contact them at sterlingarms.com. I know we're probably going to get into this, Jen, but I'm going to mention real quick since I'm talking about Sterling Arms. They are maybe down just like the rest of us, but they are not out. They will be back with a vengeance. They are going to be maybe waiting a little bit for certain things, like all of us are right now. But I can assure you guys, Sterling Arms International is not going anywhere.
Good.
I imagine that's a lot less monotonous when there's 3 of us or 4 of us cycling between all of those ad reads.
Oh, yeah, that's true, right? It's not usually just you.
I was just trying to rifle them off just as quick as I could, just to try to get through it. But
No, I totally get it.
so where do you want to start? Do you want to start with hunting? Do you want to start with the CSAAA? Do you want to start with the gun bans? What do you want to start with?
Let's start with the gun bans. Sure, absolutely. That was quite the hit on Thursday. Holy.
Yeah, that was a hell of a thing.
Yeah,
And good timing, because Eugene just asked us, is the R9 Mark I going to be banned? That's a great question.
that is a very good question.
One thing that I noticed, and you're going to have a much better inside track than I am about this, so I'm going to kind of defer to you on it. But it seemed to me that firearms that had not yet applied for an FRT were not included in the ban. Did I notice that right?
That is correct. Yes.
Which is why we didn't see firearms like the R9 or the Crypto. And I'm concerned about everybody getting like giddy about that, What are your thoughts on that? Because everybody's like, "Oh, the crypto's not banned. The crypto's not banned. The R9's not named." What are your thoughts on that?
I personally think that's it's not banned yet situation. I mean, the public safety minister himself said that he wants to close that gap and prohibit anything else that's semi-automatic that they can use to, boost their votes in the polls in the urban centers. So,
Mhm.
yeah, I think they're maybe saving those firearms for yet another prohibition whenever they need to jab the industry and the community and throw a wedge issue in there come election season.
So you think that we might be able to keep those two for a couple of months, or
Maybe a couple of months.
because they're sitting for what, another week, and then the House rises for Christmas, doesn't it?
Yes, exactly. That's true. And they were supposed to table some legislation today for firearm imports, but that never got tabled. So, I mean,
Oh.
they seem pretty lost anyways. So maybe they're still trying to figure out what exactly they want to table.
Well, typically they are the kind of government that likes the announcement more than the actual legislation.
100%.
So I suspect that the announcement has already done as much for them as it's going to, whether it's done anything or not. So maybe they'll just leave it alone for a couple of months.
I'm hoping so. I'm sure they have their hands more than full with, opening up the first phase of the confiscation program. Um, and yeah, I do see a few people in the comment section of the Liberals posting about how amazing this whole prohibition is, saying like, yeah, this is great. Get these guns off the street. Clearly people that have no idea what they're talking about. But
Yeah.
it's ringing well with some people.
Oh, isn't that just, oh my God. Goody Hutchings, man.
Was it
She just,
22 gauge shooting?
yeah, she's one of our intros. You know how we have these sound bites of politicians saying stupid things about gun?
Yeah,
Have you heard that intro that we have with Goody Hutchings yet?
I don't think so.
You know what? Let's take it's only like 30 seconds long. Let's take
I
a
love
second.
it. That's so funny.
Just one. Here it goes. 3, 2, 1.
Because I have a shotgun and rifle that I use for, and 22 gauge that I use for ptarmigan, moose, and black bear.
You're so dumb. You are really dumb. For real.
You're listening to your weekly dose of BS.
Anyway, that's the rest
I
of it.
remember watching that, and you could see like Mendocino behind her trying to like pull her off the stage. He's like, "Oh my God, you are embarrassing us."
Like,
Talking
Goody,
about
even
gun.
I know that that's garbage. Like, get off the mic.
Exactly. Even he knew.
That's
Yeah.
hilarious. Oh, well, it would be hilarious if it wasn't so.
Sad that these are
Holy
the people making the decisions.
Oh my God, I can't. I can't with these people anymore. It's one of those things that I was talking about this with a friend of mine who's a gun owner the other day. He's like, you remember the original Matrix movie?
No,
You don't
never heard
remember?
of
Did you ever
Matrix.
watch it at all, or you just don't
No,
remember it?
I've never seen it. I'm sorry.
Okay, so you know the premise of the Matrix, though.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, so there's a scene in the Matrix where one of the guys who is part of the resistance, the character's name is Cypher. Okay, and it turns out that he's a Judas. He ends
Okay.
up betraying the spoiler alert for anybody who hasn't seen the Matrix in the last 25 years.
Sorry.
It's totally fine. Nowadays, watching that movie might actually make you a little bit upset. So
Probably.
I'm not surprised you haven't seen it. Anyway, there's a scene where he's in the Matrix and he is having a clandestine meeting behind the rebels' back, and the agents of the Matrix are trying to round up all these rebels and plug them back into the Matrix. That's their whole job. Okay.
Okay.
So they're in this expensive restaurant and Cypher's sitting across a dining table from the agent, and he's eating this like well marbled, probably, $150 steak. And they're having this dialogue about, the real world versus the Matrix and all this kind of stuff. And Cypher has this conversation where he basically says, I know that all of this is fake and I know that none of it is real. And, when I put this steak in my mouth, it's just a bunch of code that tells me that it's, juicy and delicious and all this kind of stuff. And he says, but over the last however many years since he's been unplugged, he said, like, the one thing that I've realized, and the agent says, what's that? And he goes, ignorance is bliss. And we were having this conversation the other day, and we were like, man, ignorance really is bliss, because we would have no idea how absolutely corrupt and full of shit this government has been if
I
we
know.
didn't know anything about guns.
It's insane. Like, just knowing about guns and seeing the legislation that they've brought in really opened to my eyes to just how corrupt and how they'll blatantly lie about anything.
Isn't that just like, and
It's
it makes you wonder,
scary.
like, how many previous governments have been like this, but we weren't informed enough about what they were full of shit about.
Exactly. And what else, like, other than the gun topic?
It just makes a guy want to know everything, doesn't it? Or maybe know nothing.
Yeah, it makes me want to know more, but I also regret, opening up that can of worms to begin with.
I can understand that 100%. So I guess at this point, I suppose everybody knows, well, kind of what the ban is. It's basically taken everything that was semi-automatic off the market.
Yeah.
There's very few that are left. There's things like the Durya TM22, the Ruger 1022, like a lot of rimfires with that. But if your rimfire looks like a pre-existing, it's basically the same as what they did with the what was that, the 712T, is that right? When it's at the was it Mossberg that made that? It was a little semi-automatic 22.
Oh, okay. Yes.
And they banned the T, the tactical version of it, with the tactical
Yes.
stock. Didn't ban the synthetic stock or the hunting stock version.
Yes.
So same kind of idea, Ruger 1022 doesn't, I'm surprised they didn't ban the 1022 with the tactical stock on it.
I know. So was I, to be honest. Like, whenever I heard that announcement was coming, I was like, oh, frig, there goes like the 1022 that everybody owns, but now everybody owns the GSG. So it's just as bad.
Well, it is. That thing was massively popular.
Absolutely. I mean, there's so many people that bought those for their children to start learning to shoot on. And now they have to, no, you can't take that to the range anymore because our government's ludicrous.
Absolutely. What's this Black Rifle Coffee being on the new ban list and responding to it on Twitter? That was on the old ban list.
Yeah.
Did they ban also another Black Rifle promotion gun?
Not that I've seen. No, just on the old one.
They must have just been responding to it again.
I think so. Yeah. I did see someone put out something on Twitter kind of making fun of it. I think this new ban list with the 324 models has like actual real guns on it and not jokes like the other one had, like, what, the Buttmaster or something on it.
Buttmaster, yeah.
Yeah.
That was a what's his name? He's famous for the single shot 50 caliber. Somebody will correct me what his name was in a moment.
Yeah, I don't remember. I looked it up.
It wasn't even a real gun.
No.
It was just a joke gun that he made. There's only one of a kind, and he owns it.
Yeah, exactly.
That's it. Serbu.
Okay.
Yeah. So there are some 22s left, like we mentioned, but pretty much the rest of our semi-autos are done. The crypto so far is flying under the radar, although I have a very strong feeling that as soon as that hits the market, the RCMP are just going to say, no, it's a variant of the AR-15.
I know.
There were so many other guns that were much less AR-15 that they just banned arbitrarily as a variant. I just feel this is going to be the same way.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, and there was comparisons to even the Ruger PC and the Henry Homesteader, which is a 9mm semi-auto. Like Woodstock, Blackstock. Watch that. That's going to be on the next list.
The Kel-Tec Sub 2000 is a backpacking gun, as is the new Smith & Wesson, what's it called? The what is it called? FPC? It's their folding 9mm that they came out with. And what really surprised me, I've got an old TNW Aero survival rifle in 9mm. and it's just a straight blowback 9 mil. It's like super basic gun, and they banned that one on me now.
That's insane.
It's
There's no
just
reason
they're
to
just
it.
they're just backpacking guns.
Yeah. They don't know what they're prohibiting. They just know
Ugh,
it sounds good in a headline.
that's true. That's true. So we know we've got some feelings on what's going to come next, but I wanted to ask you about the SKS.
Yeah.
There's been a lot of conversation around the SKS over the last little while because it is auspiciously missing from this list, and it um, it was kind of on the chopping block with the C-21 amendments, and it was kind of chosen as the poster gun that made them back off of the C-21 amendments. So what do you make of that? Do you think that it's missing because it's not detachable magazine, or because it's wood stocked, or do you think that it's entirely political?
Maybe a combination of all three. The fact that it's wood stock, non-detachable magazine. Well, you can get the, kit with the detachable magazine.
Yeah.
But it is also highly used in, indigenous areas for sustenance hunting. So I feel like they just didn't want to push too hard with this first prohibition, so they kind of took it off. If I remember correctly, I think the public safety minister, Dominic LeBlanc, did say that they want to reevaluate guns such as the SKS in a couple of months. So I think that that's where a lot of people also started sort of paying a lot of attention to that specific rifle. Yeah, I feel like a lot of it is just political. They took it off because they don't want to tick off too many hunters or indigenous hunters just yet.
So you think they will go after it again?
I think if they get a chance to, they would try. That's just my personal feeling.
I said this last week. I kind of hope that they do in some way, and not because I want the SKS on the list as some sort of Schadenfreude because all of my guns are gone and I don't own an SKS. It's not about that.
No.
What it's about is because it became such a political football for them, and one that did not go well for them last time. I kind of want them to go after it again, and I want the Conservatives to make the issue out of it exactly in the way of, look, they tried to do this before, and they say that they care about First Nations rights. They say they care about constitutionally protected rights and our Constitution. They went after this before. It was clearly not constitutional. It was clearly against and targeting First Nations and sustenance hunters, and they backed off of it, and now they're doing it again, and they will continue to
Yeah.
do it. And I want them to hammer that they've done this before. They're doing it again. They don't care. I think it would be a very powerful counter if they did go after the SKS.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, and it gets more people involved, as sad as that is. I mean, this second round of prohibitions, I see new people getting involved that weren't really aware of the May 2020 prohibitions to begin with. But now that they have something that's impacted, now they're like, holy crap, what is happening? So, yeah, the
Mhm.
SKS would, I mean, back in the day, they were like $200 at Canadian Tire. So, like, everybody's
Yeah.
got SKSs.
Oh, well, absolutely. And it's why they're used for hunting so much.
Absolutely.
People who don't want to spend a whole lot of money on it, but would like to have a semi-automatic for hunting. For a lot of years, it was kind of the obvious choice.
Definitely inexpensive ammo, inexpensive gun.
Yeah.
Yeah, for
Except
sure.
for, the, all I can think of is the military designation M14. It's not what was the Norinco model of that rifle? It got banned on May 1st, and now I can't remember what the hell it is now. But anyway,
Yeah.
it used to be popular too, but it got banned in May 1st. So
Yep, absolutely. I mean, I know somebody, I mean, the guns that were just banned in this prohibition, I knew someone that was out hunting with a raven just like a couple of weeks ago, and now it's prohibited. M305.
yeah, uh, yeah, it was the M305. Yeah, thanks Eugene for that. It is a funny thing how we're being told that they're not suitable, they're not suitable, they're not suitable. But there's so many people like, bro, I was hunting with it last week, and now I got to put it away. It's a good thing I came home from camp, before you guys took it away from me.
It's really
Imagine.
cool that a bunch of guys that, sit in the big city and have probably never walked out in the woods in their life can tell us what's suitable and what's not suitable for hunting.
Isn't that just such a
It's
laugh?
wild. And they don't listen. I mean, like with CSAAA, we lobby the government all the time against these ridiculous prohibitions and regulations. And, they're just like bobbleheads. They kind of nod and smile and we'll take it back under advisement and they do what they want anyways.
Yeah, well, that's the thing, consultation, I think a lot of times, depending on the issue, obviously, but guns is always a wedge issue. So I think that especially in that field, they've already made their decision. They're
Exactly.
consulting so they can say that they consulted.
Yep. We saw that with C21. They
Yeah,
said that they consulted with everybody, sports shooters, hunters, everyone, and they just did whatever they wanted.
yeah, and they will continue to. But um, there was one more thing about the gun ban that I wanted to ask you about, and I can't remember what the hell it was now because we got sidetracked on it.
Oh, no.
I should have written it down, huh? So much for preparation and taking notes. I'm
That's
sure Mike
okay.
would have prepared if he was here.
If it pops into your head before we're done, we'll
Yeah,
just go back to
we
it.
can come back to it. For now, why don't we move on and talk about hunting, something a little bit more fun?
Yeah, absolutely.
You hunt a
Spurs-
lot.
I do. I try to hunt a lot. Work's been kind of nuts right now, so I haven't been able to go out for deer at all, unfortunately. They seem to always like drop some sort of crazy regulation during hunting season. Like
Could you
the
just
May
imagine that's on purpose?
it is definitely.
It's like this is a national holiday to these people. Let's screw them over and ban a few things while they're supposed to be out hunting.
Exactly. No, but I am hoping to go back out for whitetail before the end of December. That's when our season runs up until. Um, we're just open for archery right now, so I'm gonna go with the crossbow. I do a lot of turkey hunting, spring and fall. That's like my favorite. Absolutely, hearing those gobbles coming through the woods and lots of waterfowl. So
Talk to
goose.
me about turkey hunting. We don't have turkey here.
Yeah, that's true. Eh.
We've talked to Phil Odell about turkey hunting before,
Awesome.
and he loves it. And it's such a fascinating animal, I think, to hunt. I mean, who doesn't like turkey?
Yeah, exactly, and there's so much you can do with it, like, culinary-wise, there's so much you can make with it, but the hunt itself is so fun because it's so interactive, like, in the springtime, the males are so aggressive, and you'll be sitting in your blind or in the woods calling, and they're just, like, charging right at you, and you hear them gobbling in the morning when they fly down from their roost, and, yeah, it's just, like, crazy interactive. This year, I had 2 come in opening morning. I missed the first one. It was a
Okay.
little bit further than I expected. He ran off and laughed at me, and I was just like, "Oh, great, my hunt's done." But 20 minutes later, I was
That
calling
sounded
and
so mocking. I can imagine how mocking that would sound when they get away from you and they gobble.
oh, that little, like, yeah, chirp that they do, good lord. But yeah, I called another one in and got him. It was great, and yeah, it's just, like, super exciting.
Did you tell him to tell his buddy? Tell all your friends?
Head this way.
Yeah. Oh man, I think I would really enjoy I think there are turkeys. Somebody in Alberta will correct me, but I think there are turkeys in Alberta. I don't know for sure.
I wonder,
Mike,
yeah, I'm not sure.
when they do join us, they'll tell us for sure. We'll have to ask them. But
Nice.
so what do you? I mean, aside from the fact that like everybody eats turkey and they're clearly a interesting animal, what do you like about hunting turkeys the most?
I just like the fact that it is such an interactive hunt. Like you hear them gobbling, you can do a lot of, calling. They're really smart but really dumb at the same time. I actually took a turkey hunting seminar at the beginning of the spring through that hunting store with Mr. Ross. He's former police officer, did an amazing hunting course, turkey hunting course, and he was actually saying that they can remember sounds. So if you're using the exact same call and they come in and they see like, oh, there's a person there, if they hear that exact same call again, then they're going to be like, oh, that's just like some chick sitting in a blind. I'm not going there. So that's why he said, like, it's great to keep multiple types of calls. So it's just stuff like that that kind of makes it a little bit more challenging, but really fun
Interesting.
once you do get them to see how they just kind of like charge right in at you.
So I've heard that pigs are kind of like that too. If you get one and they're in a herd, when the herd runs away, like it'll learn from that
Oh,
experience.
I
Are turkeys a lot like that as well, like in general, or is it more just with the call, or is it like where you are and how you're calling and the smell that you give off and all that?
Thankfully, I don't think they're really big on smell. They have the best eyesight, and I do
Oh,
believe
do
that
they?
they would have, like,
And
a good memory as to where you're set up. I've
Okay,
never gone elk hunting, but I've heard it's very similar to elk hunting as well.
so you have to change things up every time.
Yeah, absolutely. I've got, like, multiple types of calls, like 3 different, pot calls, a box call, diaphragm calls, just to if one busts me, I'll switch it over.
I'm such a bad hunter. I would just put on a pair of Groucho Marx glasses, with the mustache underneath it, and just pretend that I'm somebody different.
Just disguise yourself and trick them.
That's why I don't get very many animals when I hunt.
That's alright. I can't say anything. I haven't got a deer yet this year, which is pretty disappointing, so
Well, I mean, we're 0 for 2 right now, and I don't think Mike hunted this year either. So that makes us 0 for 3.
no time.
well,
I
well,
hate
it doesn't
those.
help, and you don't get a draw either.
Oh, that's
Oh,
crappy.
you have to get drawn for deer where you are.
For mule deer in the one area, yes, but then all like 8 of us did not get an elk tag out of, which is rare. Usually one of us will get
Oh.
it.
Hmm. In your area, do you have to get drawn for moose too?
Yep.
And what about you,
I'm more
Jen?
likely to hit one
Yeah.
with my truck, but yeah, you still need a draw for it.
I'd have to
Yeah,
go
the
to a
problem.
different zone. We don't have moose, like, really in our zone anyway.
Oh, okay. Hitting them with your car, Mike, is a bit of a catch-22. You don't need a hunting license, but it's kind of hard to eat the meat afterwards. Not
Well,
to
it
mention
depends
the
where
repair bill.
Yeah.
you gotta strategically hit them.
It's an expensive
With
It's-
what, a semi-truck?
Yes.
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 Big moose bumper on it.
So one more question about turkey before we move off of that.
Yeah.
What does wild turkey taste like compared to farm turkey? Is it vastly different, or is it just
I
different?
don't think it's vastly different. I personally feel it's very similar. You just have to cook it differently because they are a lot more lean.
Okay.
So I won't take
More
like
lean than grocery turkey?
yeah, they're very lean and they're very muscular because they're kind of, running around a lot more than a domestic turkey would be.
Right, right.
So I won't take a full turkey and stick it in the oven like that. I'll breast them, I'll take the thighs. Usually the thighs I'll baste, put in the slow cooker and do some sort of a like pulled turkey sandwich.
Okay.
And then the breasts, there was one that I had stuffed with like feta, red pepper, a bunch of seasoning, and I smoked that, and that was fantastic.
I'm really I've talked to you about turkey. I've talked to Phil about turkey, and I'm starting to really think that we need to introduce wild turkey to Saskatchewan,
Definitely.
Oh,
because I'm
there
not much of a
is.
bird. Not in Saskatchewan. Where?
Yeah, they release them down by Cypress Hill, I'm pretty sure.
I think I heard
Do
about that
they?
actually.
Yeah, I think there's like 6 tags in the whole province, but
I
And
feel
you
like
have to be drawn for it.
yeah,
wow,
last I heard. I
being
remember
drawn
hearing
to
something about that.
Ain't nobody got time for that.
that would
Just
be
go
crazy.
to Ontario where there's all kinds of turkey. You don't have to get drawn where you are for turkey, do you?
No, we can get 2 tags in the springtime, no problem. I think it's 2 tags in the fall also. Spring's just Tom's only or Jake's, a bearded turkey, and fall you can get like a bearded turkey, Jake, Tom, or hen.
4
So
turkeys a year. I would get up for that.
we've got a
Absolutely.
lot of turkey. Like where I hunt, there's like just a herd of 40 of them at any time.
Can you kind of just start wrangling them up and just release them somewhere on the South Saskatchewan River, and And we'll take care of the rest.
I can
No,
try.
We have these things called coyotes, and they're very efficient.
That's
Do
true.
you think that's why we don't have turkeys? Is because, well, there's yotes in Ontario, though.
Yeah, there are a lot of coyotes here. I wonder what it is in Saskatchewan. I don't know. Is
There's
the
no
winter
trees
maybe
for
more
the turkeys
harsh to
Uh,
roost?
okay, that would make
like
sense.
like if there's one in Estevan, the coyotes can see him from Regina. Like
Fair, eh? Yeah, and I mean, I have heard that the majority of the babies will die over the wintertime because they can't roost high enough in the trees out of the snow. So
Oh,
maybe
that
that's
would make a lot of sense if they can't handle the cold.
yeah, absolutely.
You know, I do often forget how much further south Ontario actually is than Saskatchewan.
I know. It's crazy. Until I like travel to Alberta for something and pass over Saskatchewan, I don't really realize how far everything is in Canada.
Yeah. Well, I think we're at like 54 degrees north or something like that, and Toronto is only like 48 or 47 degrees north or something. Like it's maybe a little more than that. Maybe no, it's got to be north of. No, it's not. It's maybe it's in like low 50s or something, but it's not that far.
Hmm.
It's pretty far south. I don't know, we should look it up. Mike's going to look it up right now. I can tell the look of concentration on his face. He's already looking it up. He'll
Nice.
tell us what the longitude is.
Thank you.
And we all wait with bated breath.
uh
Oh, we got
40
dead air, Mike. We
43?
can't have dead air. 43.
I'm seeing 43.
And
Latitude
what is
43.65 by longitude 79.34.
oh, I said longitude before too, and it is the latitude we need. And yeah, Saskatoon is 52 degrees north. So almost like we're basically 9 degrees north of which is quite a bit
Yeah.
of Toronto. So
Okay.
I think we figured it out all by ourselves. We didn't even need to bring on a specialist with
No.
things.
No professional needed.
Yeah, excellent. So do you have any hunting to happen yet this winter, or are you done for the winter?
Nope. I'm done. The only thing that I have on the agenda now is done. I'll be out a couple of more times before the end of December to try for whitetail. But then it's ice fishing.
Mm, okay. Until when? Springtime for, well, you said not really a lot of black bear where you are, but
No, I'd have to drive to do black bear hunting. Definitely want to do that this year though. I've never gone bear hunting before, so I'll probably try and go up to like Lanark area to maybe get a bear for once. That'd be awesome.
Go up
cool.
by Thunder Bay. They're everywhere.
Ooh, okay.
I was
Nice.
working up
Is it
there for
just
4 years. It's like, oh, there's a black bear. There's a black bear. There's a
Bear
black bear.
country. Oh, that's
Oh
awesome.
yeah.
is it just black around there?
Yeah, it's all black bear.
Okay.
Oh, black. Yeah. You know, black bear, man, they outnumber brown bears in this country so much. I never knew that until I started looking I was looking up the stats in the Yukon a couple of years ago, and there's over 250,000 black bears in the territory of the Yukon, and there's only something like, was it 13 or 23,000, something like that, brown bears. Like it was just
Wow.
a fraction of as many black bears as there were brown. Well, I said that wrong, but you know what I mean.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm getting it.
Yeah,
Huh.
it's interesting.
Yeah. And I don't think people realize like bear is very good wild game. Like that's delicious right there. So yeah, definitely a
That's so
good
funny. I hear so many people say that, and I
contradiction.
hear an equal number of people who are just like, I won't eat it. I've been told that it depends on whether you're eating it in the spring or whether you harvest it in the spring or the fall. Though.
Oh, okay.
Or
I
harvested
don't
next
know
to
how
a
true
dump.
that is.
Yeah.
Or, yeah, or if the bear's next to a dump. Yeah.
If you get a dump
Uh,
bear, I'm sorry.
no, I guess that's probably different.
Was it? I can't remember now. Is it? Does everybody say that they're better in the spring because they don't have all the fat, or is it that they're better in the fall because they do have the fat? Does anybody know?
I would
No.
argue spring bear is better.
That's what I'm
Just
thinking.
the leaner
Kind of
meat.
makes sense. I just know more people that hunt spring bear.
That's got to be it then. It's got to be just the leaner bear is the better tasting bear,
Hmm.
which would make
It's
sense.
leaner. It's for the hunter that's on the go. It's leaner.
There you go. Watching
It's
their
less
weight.
weight. It's less weight to haul around when you get one.
Black bears are the Atkins diet of wild animals.
Yeah, exactly. It's diet food.
Okay, I can
Diet
get
bear.
behind that, I guess. I'm still going to go for turkey.
Yes, you have to. It's so fun.
It's my favorite unhunted animal now, officially.
I still got elk is my favorite. I'll put
I-
elk above moose.
I'd love to try elk. Absolutely. That'd be fun.
You haven't
can't
had elk
even tell
before?
that it's. You go ahead, Jen.
Oh,
Jen,
no.
you have that?
No, I haven't hunted elk yet.
Oh,
But you've eaten elk though.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay. Interesting. I thought Yukikazu said nothing beats moose soup. I thought he said nothing beats moose soap. Like who's washing themselves with moose soap?
Can't you make soap out of fat and ash?
I was going to say
Yes.
moose tallow.
Yeah, you
Yeah.
totally could. I think you
Mhm.
absolutely. In fact, I know that you can because I'm pretty sure that Jerica from Jerica in the Wild was it moose? She's definitely made soap from the tallow of some wild game. And I can't
think I
remember
saw
if it was
that.
moose or what it was. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. For some reason I want to say moose, but I could very well be wrong.
Let's just say moose. And if
Yeah.
we're wrong and she's watching, because of course she is, because everyone's a fan. So then she can correct us.
Definitely.
Jen, should we
true, all
talk? Go ahead, Mike.
I was gonna say all the Canadian firearms media, we're all like buddy with each other. We all know each other.
It's a
There's
small
like
world.
it's a small world. There's like 20 of us tops.
I love it.
Is there even 20 of us?
Yeah, I'd say there's about 20 of us.
I trust Mike's math.
Yeah. Seems like a good
Just-
educated guess.
Moose.
Going off
Mouse
the
soup.
rails.
Ooh, no, I don't. Mouse soap. No,
Mouse
no.
soap.
It's a
I
worst
think
smelling
that's-
soap.
That would be nasty.
That's just Uke being Uke, I think.
Mhm.
And we can't make rat
Uh,
soap in Alberta, so
Rat burgers are apparently quite good if you're the demolition man.
you're gonna be going hungry in Alberta. We don't got rats.
That's your guys' problem. I may not have turkeys, but we got rats.
It's our non-problem.
I'll take the turkeys over the rats.
You probably should take the turkeys over the rats. That seems like a good call. Okay, let's talk about the CSAAA.
Yeah.
First of all, we've got a number of American viewers tonight, so they may not know what the CSAAA is, and if they came in late and they weren't here, like Bending obviously wasn't when you introduced yourself, let's really quickly do a quick recap on what the CSAAA is.
Definitely. So in the United States, they have the NSSF, which is our counterpart, basically. So they take care of the industry in the United States. We take care of the industry in Canada. The CSAAA, that acronym is the Canadian Sporting Arms and Ammunition Association. And we just represent all of the hunting, firearms, archery businesses across Canada, whether it be manufacturers, distributors, retailers, private sellers, people that offer services to firearms industry, specifically like legal services. That's all of our membership base. And the organization itself is run by a board of volunteers. So it's men and women that work in the firearm industry, whether they own a business or are employed at a manufacturing company. And they sit on that board, and we work really hard to lobby the government against these prohibitions, these anti-gun regulations. Since we are apolitical, like we're not allowed to sort of promote a certain political party officially, we do get to have the conversations with, the liberals that are unfortunately in power to at least have the businesses' voices heard. So yeah, that's CSAAA, the industry organization.
So I think most people are probably familiar with the CSAA's lobbying efforts, let's say, over the last couple of years. But when we say, or when you say that you basically handle things on the industry side of things. What kind of things on the day-to-day is the CSAAA doing?
Other than anything regulatory, we deal with sort of day-to-day issues, like if a business is having licensing issues, either, obtaining licensing for their business to transport ammunition, to sell ammunition, if they're having issues with shipping, if they need help understanding the regulations, anything like that, we're kind of like the go-to resource for them to get that information. We have a lot of great connections with the provincial CFOs, especially the more firearm-friendly CFOs like Saskatchewan and Alberta. Like,
Yeah.
they're just fantastic. So it's easy for us to kind of go and help those businesses since we have those relationships and connections.
You guys have a industry legends kind of feature where you feature
Yes.
unique people. Can you kind of delve into that and kind of give some examples of who those people are?
Definitely. Thank you for bringing that up. That was started over a year ago. It's the Industry Legends Awards Banquet. We do a fundraiser auction, we have an awards banquet, and at each banquet, we honor 3 different industry legends. They're people that have worked in the industry and contributed greatly to the industry, whether it's through doing work, volunteering on certain organizational boards like CSAAA, Ducks Unlimited, anything like that. And it's also businesses that have done huge things for the industry, such as bringing in certain types of firearms and ammunition that we see all over the market today. So we have so far honored legends like Kath Trubridge. She was one of the founders of Excalibur Crossbow. Steve Cuppy, he was actually the first one that we were able to present the award to, and he was great for bringing in Winchester ammunition into Canada. So it's all huge players in the firearm industry that are really well known, people that, other business members kind of look up to or have worked with or worked for throughout the years. And a lot of them are now retired or, have a lot of experience in the industry. Yeah, it's super exciting. I love those banquets. They're very fun to plan, very fun to execute. And then once we're there, it's just a huge dinner of everybody that's kind of in the industry. And even though they are competitors, they're still friends and they still get along amazing. So yeah, it's a great networking opportunity as well.
It's a nice kind of social mixer celebration all in one.
That's it. Exactly. Especially with so much negativity politically and everything. It's just nice for these businesses to just, take a little break and meet up with friends that they don't really get to see face to face as often for something positive.
Yeah, that's great to hear.
Yeah,
So-
absolutely.
I believe CSAAA also puts on kind of an industry Canada mini shot show as well.
They had started doing trade shows. That was a couple of years ago before my time. And then I started right during COVID. So we tried doing another trade show right after. Unfortunately, a lot of the industry is kind of going to online, video conferences for their trade shows. So they'll do it all virtually because it does take a lot of time out of their day or to send employees that they don't really have a lot of out to these trade shows. So it seems like the attendance at the actual business to business trade shows is starting to dwindle down a little bit. So unfortunately, yeah, we don't execute those mini shot shows or trade shows anymore. But hopefully once things are a little bit more firearm friendly, politics wise, people will be able to get out more to those.
Turn that
Do you think
around.
that's a big part of it? It's not a drop in interest. It's more just people are or they're busy trying to keep their own house afloat, or
100%. Yeah. They just can't send staff because then they don't have anyone at the store or they're limited on resources, or the fact that all of the ordering kind of is done online now. Then they're just going there for the social aspect more than anything.
okay, yeah.
What
The
is your
social
role
aspect
with
is
the
important, though.
CSAAA?
I am the managing director, so I execute all of the amazing ideas that the board members have. I organize their events. I do all of the administrative work. I take care of the emails and sort of helping businesses with any of the day-to-day issues, such as, licensing, shipping issues, not being able to get certain services because there's services like banks that kind of look down upon legal firearms businesses for some reason.
Is sorry to
Yeah,
interrupt
no,
you. Is that
definitely.
happening in Canada? 'Cause I've heard
Yeah.
it in the States.
Yeah,
Oh,
we are.
dang.
We're unfortunately seeing banks that are refusing to open up accounts
Dang.
for firearm businesses. That's actually a huge issue that I've been seeing lately.
Mm.
We're partnered with CFIB, the Canadian Federation of Independent Businesses, and
Mhm.
they have a huge push. So it's really great to be able to work with them to try and get some sort of support for these businesses. Because I mean, like,
How,
That's
how
also
can,
something in the background we don't see, which is kind of good to know about.
yeah.
We walk into our gun store, we're looking at what's on the walls, what's on the shelves, and bullshitting with whoever's behind the counter. But
fair enough. Yeah, you don't
So
see
I,
the
I
real.
can understand how a private company like Shopify, they can decide you're not a customer that we want. How can a national bank do that? Like, how do they get away with that type of discrimination?
I forget the exact terminology they use, but they sort of say that it's like not nefarious trade, but just
Adverse risk or some
yeah,
legal
it's
speak like
something
that.
ridiculous like that.
That's bullshit. There's
It's
no evidence for it. It's
it's
just,
insane, and it's legal, it's legitimate, like, these people were licensed to sell these items, like, it's so heavily regulated. A lot of the time, though, like, with us pushing, with CFIB helping push, like, we can definitely get accounts open for these businesses, but it's just the fact that they have to go through this rigmarole to begin with.
oh my God. So in the end, you're usually kind of able to get a bank to open an account for them.
Absolutely.
So
Yeah.
they're basically just harassing people.
Yep, for sure. I think we've seen it with, shipping companies as well. They'll kind of give them a little bit of a rough time getting started. But then if you kind of push hard enough and harass enough, they're fine. They'll open it up. But yeah, it
Wow.
seems like a lot of it's just like harassing and pushing and letting them know like this is absolutely ridiculous.
Yeah. Well, not to mention discriminatory. Like
Exactly.
in this day and age, when we are so concerned about discriminatory
yes,
practices, like what in the hell is going on?
We're the one community they're allowed to discriminate against.
You know, I make jokes all the time about how hard it is to be a 6.5 foot tall white guy with blue eyes. But this is
It's becoming a reality.
it's really not that much. Like as a gun owner, it's not a joke. Like it's kind of happening, isn't it?
Definitely, yeah. I think, like, my only saving grace sometimes is that I'm, like, a woman, so sometimes the people are kinda like, "Oh, she's not the typical, like, grumpy old white man," so
Which, to be fair, there are a lot of grumpy old white guys. Go to any gun show, you'll see
I
them.
know.
Yeah, for
Like,
sure.
well, not technically that is diverse. You have every different kind of 60-year-old white guy there.
Yeah, but you know what? You know what is nice though? We also now have like the nerdy Asian guy and like the quiet Middle Eastern guy, and like it's not just the grumpy white
Yeah,
guy.
mm,
So
it's
that
true.
is kind of nice to see. So there's movement on both sides. We're okay to discriminate against, but we're also, we have other people joining the same, call it pastime, lifestyle, whatever you want to call it. That we
Definitely.
even, oh man, Filipinos love guns.
Oh,
Ni-
absolutely.
1911.
Love it.
there's a big Filipino community in Saskatoon, and one of my business partners is Filipino, and he's never been involved with guns, but he moved. His family moved to Canada from Manila when he was 8 years old. So once in Canada, they seem to. A lot of Filipinos seem to, at least in this area, seem to not really get like they don't get a pal and they're not gun owners. But as soon as they find out that you're a gun owner, they're super interested. They want to know everything about it. And it's like, how do I get a gun? It's like, I would love to have a gun. You get to go to the gun range and shoot a gun whenever you want. That sounds amazing.
Yep.
It
It's
is.
It
the
is
licenses.
amazing.
Yeah, it is amazing.
I would love to see like what the stats are on like the Filipino, like the percentage of Filipino immigrants that are getting new pals, because it's got to be massive.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think any new Canadians at all, like they all seem very interested in Canada's firearm culture, which is fantastic because, despite what our government says or does, like I do think Canada has a great firearm culture.
Mhm.
Which is
Yeah,
not
it's-
U.S. culture. It's more of like European-ish with a bit of America sprinkled on top.
Yeah,
Oh,
We
for
have our
sure.
own thing,
I think so. I think it's very unique. Absolutely.
and I'm sick of getting compared to the Americans. I'm not gonna lie.
I know.
I get
Because,
that they're close, but like
yeah,
Europeans call us savages because we can't hunt
geography,
suppressors.
right? Isn't that nuts?
Well, we kind of get shit on them from both sides, though,
We
don't we?
do get on from both
The
sides.
Europeans are like, you can't have suppressors. What's wrong with you losers? And the Americans are like, you can't have an AR. What's
You don't
wrong
have
with you
to
losers? They're like, why aren't you guys uprising against you? Man, we've had people on some listeners in the past on this show that are like, that would never happen in our country. We would never allow that to happen in our country. And I'm like, yeah, I get it. Like, you have a Second Amendment, though, first of all, and
Exactly.
second of all, California.
Yeah.
Like, that would never
California.
happen in your country.
I mean,
California?
DC.
I have enough with like Canadian legislation to keep me busy, but what I see from the States, they were just kind of one election away from being pretty darn close to what Canada is dealing with. So,
Yeah. Well, the only reason they're not where we are now is because somebody had the foresight to write an amendment to their constitution.
yeah.
Otherwise, like I have no
Cultural differences.
Yeah, that too.
Sure, but I don't think that without a Second Amendment, I don't think their cultural differences would have stopped. Like they would have been decades ago with the gun legislation, and it would have been slowly bred out of them, just like they're trying to slowly breed it out of us.
Fair.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, we hear here all the time, like, you guys don't have gun rights, so stop complaining.
Yeah, well, I mean, my when my dad was a kid, he was shooting fully automatic World War II surplus light machine guns that
Amazing.
were left over from the war up until 1977 or 78, I guess, is when it took effect, whenever it was. A case in point, Mike, shown by Mike. And that's my father. That's one generation ago for me.
Yeah, that's crazy, eh?
To
To think
we-
how
I've never even seen a fully automatic firearm inside of Canada's borders.
I haven't. No, that's true.
I've shot them in America.
Other than a museum, no.
Okay, that's
Museum's a bit of an exception.
Yeah, Derek, we went to the Canadian War Museum, basically everything, and there's a machine gun.
There was a lot of drool on the floor during that visit.
I bet.
You talking in Ottawa? You mean?
Yeah, in
Yeah.
Ottawa.
Yeah.
If
It
anyone's
was
never
kind of
been,
sad for me when I
go to
go
that
there,
museum.
because you can see that they're all deactivated,
Mhm.
and I'm just like, oh, that's so sad. These guns
Yeah.
are so cool, and like that some of them were like in use during the wars that they were in service for, and now they're all just like plugged up with solder and lead, and it's a little bit sad, but
There's
it's still cool to see them.
There's some in the warehouses that are probably still good to go.
Oh,
Oh,
I
I'm
believe
sure.
that.
Yeah.
Those are the display ones.
What's that big movie? That big movie armor in Toronto? Is it Toronto Auction House?
Military
What's
Arms
it?
Group.
Military Arms Group. Is that what it is?
Yep.
Guaranteed, they've got some.
They do. They have tons.
Yeah, but like actual functional ones, though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very
Well,
cool.
have you been there?
I haven't been there, but like for movie props, usually what they do is they'll thread the inside of the barrel and then they'll put like pipe plugs, and depending how much flash you want, you can vary the taper
Oh.
with the blanks. That being said, not all those plugs stay in, and then you have an incident like the Crow. So yeah, all firearms, or even blank guns, are dangerous.
Can we stop talking about the Crow now and start talking about Alec Baldwin?
Oh god.
You mean how Alec Baldwin shot first?
He certainly did, didn't he?
It's a cult single
What a
action.
tragedy, though.
You
Like,
cannot
it's-
Yeah.
Well, that's the thing. It's been proven physically impossible for what his versions of events was to have occurred, and he still got away with it.
That's so weird. Well, it's not weird nowadays. Like, it's not surprising, I guess.
Even when you're a washed up alcoholic in Hollywood, it still goes to show you what money can buy you.
Yep, absolutely.
And me, and a law-abiding citizen, can't own an MP5. This is nonsense.
But an anti-gunner Hollywood loser can get
anti-gunner's the big thing. Yeah, really.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing that bothers me about Hollywood in general. What's her name? She's an elderly lady. She's
Jane
in the
Fonda.
movie. No, she's British. She was in the movie Red and Red 2, and those are the two movies that she was in that made me really frustrated with her. Helen Mirren.
Yep.
Okay.
Helen Mirren is such a wackadoodle anti-gunner. Like, absolutely out of her fucking mind anti-gunner. But it's okay for her to use guns in movies like Red and Red 2, where she basically plays an elderly assassin who's obsessed with guns and like shooting all these people and sniping people and basically just a psychopath who turned it into a career. So it's okay to portray all of these things in popular culture. It's just not okay to actually use them responsibly in real life. She makes me very...
Yeah, I wonder if that's like her only exposure, where she thinks that like anybody that owns a gun is just going to be a raving lunatic going on a shooting spree. Like, there's some people that just, it doesn't seem like they can fathom someone owning a gun and not doing anything nefarious.
I call it word association. Like, if you talk to somebody anti-gun and you tell them, like, I'm gonna give you a word and I want you to associate with another word. And if you say gun, chances are they're gonna say violence.
Yeah.
So as soon as they hear the word gun, first thing that comes out in their mind is violence. We all know violence is bad, and violence is bad, but they just can't fathom separating the two.
That's it. Yeah, it seems like the separation. You're right.
Well, you know, Helen Mirren also played Sarah Winchester in the movie Winchester.
Really?
Yeah. And then this is a direct quote. She made a comment. She was drawn to the film's message because of the unconscionable part of the gun trade, and the world is a terrifying place, and a lot of the terror in the world comes from arms.
Oh, come on.
Because it doesn't come from dictators or, you know, militias or, you know, any of that kind of stuff.
Just like violent gang.
Exactly. And you know what? All of the terror that happens in Africa is only because of the guns. It has, you know, all of the people that are hacked to death with machetes. That's not a part of like terror in those countries, you know?
No.
Like,
and that's probably because guns exist.
Exactly.
Ridiculous.
There was a quote from, what's his name? Bill
Sylvester
Maher.
Stallone even.
Stallone is anti-gun?
Stallone's made anti-gun comments before, and he's like the poster child for
anything
when you think bad gun owner, you think Rambo.
Dude, he wrote the movie.
He's literally become his own metaphor.
That's insane.
He didn't just star in those movies; he wrote them.
Conjured up this stuff.
It was literally his brainchild.
Yep,
just insane.
He's called for ending the Second Amendment too.
What a nut job.
But then he makes the like Rambo and the Expendables. I'm like, clearly you know how to make money. I will appreciate the drive, but at the same time,
if you got the mental capacity for that, maybe just like try and open your mind to the realities of gun ownership.
It's probably just pandering.
Yeah.
That's
a lot of it is.
He probably thinks differently. He's like, which side can make me more money?
That's true.
Maybe can we all just agree that movie celebrities, everybody knows their name because they are good liars and for entertainment purposes, and that it has nothing to do with who they are as people, and we just should stop listening to them.
Why would we listen to them in the first place? Like, it is mind-blowing. I know.
Oh, we put so much stock in celebrities. And it's not just celebrities who can even carry a conversation. like we're so concerned about what like TikTok influencers have to say.
It's insane. And like these are some of the most mindless people.
I don't get it.
And,
Maybe that's
and
why
it's
we
funny
don't.
because if you took some of them mindless people to the range, like here's a gun, don't tell them it's an AR-15. Back when we could do that, and you put it in their hand, they shoot it. Like, oh, this is great. I'm like, oh yeah, that was an AR-15, by the way. They'd have no idea.
Exactly.
No,
If you told them beforehand, they'd probably be all nervous and weird.
unless
Well,
they're a
Jen, you've probably
journalist
seen this
and
before. Like
then
you bring
PTSD
someone
with.
to a
Yeah.
oh delay. You bring
No, go
someone
ahead.
to a range day, and they're how many times do you have someone go to a range day and then walk away like I don't like that.
I don't see it too often.
I don't think it. I've never seen it happen in my time
No.
of bringing people to the range.
Yeah, I mean, like my local range, we do a huge event for National Range Day, like for the community to come in, try all these guns. And I've had people come in that are petrified, like shaking, nervous of the sound, nervous to touch them. And by the end of the day, they're asking how they can get their gun license. We don't have anybody leave those days saying, like, nope, that's not for me.
Yeah,
And
I
there
know.
is
I've
something for everybody too.
Oh, for sure.
well, I've
Like
said it before. That's the great thing about guns. Like guns are not one thing. Guns are an entire spectrum of anything you could possibly imagine.
Like
That's
you go hide in your one little niche, and you come out of that niche, you're like, oh, here's another niche. Oh, here's another niche over here.
Mhm.
Yep.
Well, you can do stuff as like bench rush shooting, which guys with physical disabilities, guys like Doug Rodenbush, they can participate. Anybody can participate in that stuff. You've got video gamers can shoot IPSC and 3-gun. Not here right now, but I mean it exists. You've got the straight out hunters. You've got the outdoorsmen who it's just a tool for them. You've got shotgun. And not just shotgun, but you've got semi-automatic shotgun for sport. You've got over under shotgun. You've got different gauges for different. Like it's the whole thing is just a plethora. Call it
Yep.
a plethora.
Definitely. There's something for everyone.
I know I've taken a few people out to the range who have said that, like, flat out before we got there, like, I'm scared shitless. I had one person, a female that I took out once. She said, like, we were driving, and of course it's Saskatchewan, so it's a 40-minute drive outside of town. She's like, I'm not gonna lie, if I didn't know you, I would feel like you're taking me out, and like I'm not coming home, sort of thing. And you have a laugh about it to break the tension, but even that person, we were like one magazine into a 22 caliber handgun, and they were a fan. They were loving it.
Yep. Definitely. I don't think I mean, I'm sure there's people that walk away saying that's not for me, but I haven't seen it yet. Everybody loves it.
I've definitely had people who are like, oh, I'm not going to go get my gun license.
Yes.
But I don't think everyone has to. Like my wife is like that. I've taken my wife out multiple times. And she actually went and got her gun license just to help be a statistic. But she's not really interested in shooting. She understands, like we are outdoors a lot. She absolutely understands the utility of a firearm for wilderness protection. And so she learned how to shoot so that she could use it as a tool when we're out in the middle of nowhere. But she has no intention of, like, she doesn't want her own gun. She's just going to use what I have. And she doesn't want to shoot regularly or anything like that. But she also now like she's been exposed to it.
Yeah.
And even as peripherally involved as she is, she can see the bullshit when it comes out in the form of announcements,
Yes.
And
that's the most important
super
part.
valuable. Yeah.
Absolutely. People having like the knowledge and the experience to be able to just identify when the government's kind of bullshitting about something, which it's just most of the time.
Or journalists, right?
Yes.
So when this journalist from CNN says that the recoil bruised my shoulder and the noise gave me PTSD, I've got these people that come to me the next day and like, did you hear this journalist on the news? And I'm like, oh yeah, I heard. And they're like, wasn't that an AR that you had me, like, this was years ago, obviously. It was like, wasn't that an AR that you shot with me at the range when you took me out? I was like, sure was. And they're like, what is this guy talking about? And I'm like, that's a good question. Ask him.
How embarrassing. Like, jeez.
What is Uke talking? Sorry, I'm in the chat here. What is Uke talking about? Oops, he says Chris knows what's up with that reference. What reference?
I think you have to read up. He likes commenting in spurts.
I have no idea. He always says that I know what he's talking about, and most of the time I have no clue what he's talking about.
I love it.
But that's okay.
So we were talking earlier about being the one group you can discriminate against.
Yeah.
You have a podcast.
Oh,
called
yes.
The Horrible People Podcast, and I'm not wearing a fur hat just because it's very nice and warm and toasty. I'm wearing a fur hat in reference to that. So can you kind of go
I
into
love
that?
it. Yes, definitely.
It's beaver, by the way.
Nice.
Yes.
Did you like shoot it or?
No, this.
No, I do like that.
I picked the hides up at Halford's, and me and a buddy, we actually made these hats. We put these hats together, so it is actually fur all on the inside.
Oh, that's awesome.
So it is super warm, other than like the pelted ones. Like if you're active in the outdoors, I can't wear this.
You will sweat. It's insane.
15
wow.
Because it just gets too hot even then.
What's the leather on it?
So it's like a oil skin leather.
That's really nice. I love that.
I did do the little ear flaps, but it is super nice. And my story with this is so I work in the Northwest Territories in the Yukon quite often with my work. I traveled. This was back during COVID times, where they separated the territories from the rest of the country.
Yeah.
Like early, so I was needed for some work, so I had to isolate in a hotel for 2 weeks. So when I got there, the health people for Northwest Territories government will be like, "Oh, welcome home. Will you be isolating at home these 2 weeks?" I'm like, "No," because I was wearing the fur hat. I'm like, I look like a northerner in this hat.
Yes.
So that is the ultimate compliment.
That's amazing.
So, yes.
Wait, you're saying that it was the hat made them think that you were a local?
Yes, the hat made me think that I was a local to the Northwest Territories. So
that's awesome.
Yes.
Yeah, I've actually had a few fur folk on the Horrible People podcast. And I initially started, I guess, to kind of like go back to the beginning, to highlight sort of the misconceptions that hunters, sports shooters, firearms community face, and try and educate the general public on these misconceptions. And I had Travis Bader with Silvercore podcast on the show, and I had his episode run first because he brought up a really good point that if I investigate other minorities or people that are maybe discriminated against, then it'll draw in more people than just the hunting and firearms community. And then once you throw like a couple of gun and hunting folks in there, it will educate people that are kind of just listening to hear misconceptions about anybody, whether it's gender, race, sexual orientation, anything like that. So season 2 is going to include a much broader spectrum. We've got, people from different backgrounds, different ethnic groups, sexual orientations, to just kind of highlight what sort of misconceptions and discrimination that they like realistically face. And it does really help people highlight whenever maybe some bad information is being sent around. Like, there's so much information about the firearms community that's extremely misleading and kind of demonizes people that are really good people. And I'm hoping that this podcast will help sort of highlight that maybe not everything's as it seems, and you should dig a little bit deeper and do your research with the people that are actually living it.
I learned a ton from the seal hunting episode. That was my favorite.
Yeah, with Jen. She's amazing. Oh my god.
I thought it was like, well, boys, we got a canoe and we have a bat. Let's go to town.
I know.
Turns out it's a lot more elaborate.
You thought it was like snake bashing in Springfield?
Kind of.
And there's
Okay.
just like so much science behind why they do what they do. And yeah, it's so educational. That was a really, really good episode for sure.
And you go into some details on that because even myself, I've spent some time in the north, but I was offered the opportunity to go sealing once, but it was very dark and very cold, and I was very tired. So
Fair. Yeah, I can see that not being like super super exciting to go out there and freeze in the dark. No, it is really cool. I mean, a lot of their stuff is backed by, science, help of veterinarians. They actually bash the skull in to make sure that the animal's dead and not suffering. It's usually a clean, quick kill. And of course, it's highly regulated, just like anything else in Canada. But that seems to be another thing that vegan organizations or, animal rights, quote unquote, organizations like to look down on, because it's so easy to put a picture of, a cute little baby seal and say, like, these people are monsters. How could they hunt these guys?
I like how you couldn't not roll your eyes there.
Oh my God. Animal rights groups, except they don't really take into consideration what's best for the animal. It's just all about what feels right.
Well, what a way to deny your own humanity, right? Like, I mean, how fundamentally it's just I try, and usually I'm pretty good at like putting myself in other people's shoes. I may not agree with you, but at least I can like kind of understand your perspective. But like organizations like PETA and anti-gunners and all this kind of, well, even anti-gunners, some anti-gunners, like not the lunatics, but like some anti-gunners, I can put myself in their shoes. You don't know anything about it. Your only exposure to guns has only come through movies and news headlines, and maybe if personally, if somebody held you up on the street or something like that. So like I can understand that position, but like the whole animal, like eating animals is murder, and I'm like, okay, what
and
are you going?
To be so loud about something that they're like blatantly wrong and uneducated on, it's like the audacity of you, like these anti-gun organizations that are pushing for these bans, like you don't know what you're talking about. So like maybe just be quiet and keep it to yourself.
and what an internal struggle this is, right? Like, because they're like, no, eating animals is wrong, and their entire body is like, but it's what helps us live. Like we want it. Yeah. Like their pancreas, the same time that they're saying that meat is murder, their pancreas is producing enzymes that are designed to digest animal proteins. It's just
their body is like, no, please feed us this murder.
Their whole body even their body is fighting against them. It's just
my favorite is the vegans that make their pets into vegans. That's great.
That's called animal abuse.
Idea, huh? That's exactly what that is.
I mean, like, because cats are carnivores. They can't be eating whatever crap you're trying to feed them just because meat's murder.
Exactly. Oh God.
My favorite line is nature is so much more civilized. Like, go on like National Geographic and look at Africa and tell me that nature is civilized. That's some of the most savage stuff that's out there.
I've seen trail camera pics of like coyotes taking down a deer, eating it from its hind end first. Like nature is what? You don't think a quick shot would have been better than that?
Exactly. Entrails hanging out and the animal is still thrashing around. Like,
exactly.
That's a pretty horrible way to die.
It's effed up.
Like a quick shot from my semi-auto, and if needed, a follow-up shot so I could put that animal down faster is arguably the most humane way to do it.
Way better than a natural death.
Isn't that ironic?
Because sometimes people miss when you're hunting. Like, it's not magic.
Oh, for sure. Absolutely.
Like, people just think, I'll take someone shooting. They've never shot with longer range. Those like, I put the crosshair on the target and I missed. I'm like, yeah, because it's not just a laser beam. There's other factors you gotta
the scope's not like adjusting to your...
That is the number one, I don't know about you guys, but that is the number one comment I get from people when I take them out shooting handguns for the first time. Even from 10 or 15 meters, they're like, why am I missing? And at the end of it, they're always like, man, it's really hard to hit something with a handgun. I'm like, yeah, no shit.
Yep,
like,
absolutely. I mean, I've taken out people that have shot like long gun for years and years, and then the first time they touch a handgun, they're like, "This is a lot harder than it looks."
Yeah. And it's why it's so important for people who have them as their job to be competent with them.
Yes.
I will actually bring that up listening to the news today. So in Edmonton, there was a ACERT investigation into a police involved shooting, and there was a guy that robbed a liquor store, and they found a similar suspect at a bus stop. They pulled him over while they went up to him. He started running, and when he started running, he withdrew a sawed-off shotgun.
Oh my God.
And pointed at the officers. Rightfully, the officers dispatched him. However, unfortunately, in the background, I'm not sure the exact geographic location of the shooting, a pedestrian was struck and was killed. So,
And that's awful. I mean, we have so many ranges, closing down or dealing with noise bylaws where all of this law enforcement is supposed to go and train, and nobody's taking into consideration incidents like that where these officers need the training, they need the hands-on.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my
Not only
God.
that, but if we had suppressors, it wouldn't be an issue that the people keep building their houses 100 yards off of
Yes.
a rifle range that's been there since 1964.
Yep.
No pun intended, but I'm gunning for suppressors becoming legal 2028.
I know. Me too.
Surprisingly, at
Maybe second.
TACOM, other people were talking about that. Like it was like there was weird rumblings around people, and I'm not sure where that started from, but it's encouraging.
I'd have to find the clip, but I do know it was brought up in the House of Commons once over the past year or maybe two. I think it was the past year. A Conservative MP had spoke up about how important suppressors actually are as, like PPE and suppressing the noise for neighbors. It's not like we're going to be using these for criminal reasons. Like we just don't want to blow our eardrums out and have our neighbors complaining that the gun range is too loud.
I think part of the reason is still people think that poaching is that much of a problem.
Maybe, eh?
But here's my thought on that. You can go buy a crossbow at Cabela's with no license and go poach if you want to. If people want to do something, they will do it.
That's it. And I mean, I highly doubt a semi-functioning suppressor is too hard to make if people are making ghost guns. Pretty sure that they can make an illegal suppressor to slap onto their threaded barrel.
I think suppressors were invented before semi-autos.
Actually, the patent for the muffler and the suppressor are the same patent.
Oh, that's cool.
So we drive around with
the suppressor?
Yes, the same patent.
Really?
Yeah, because Hiram Maxim's son invented the suppressor because his dad went deaf, inventing the Maxim machine gun.
Is when you think about it, a muffler is simply a pass-through series of baffles to dampen the sound of escaping tiny explosions, which is what's happening inside of your internal combustion engine.
Yeah.
And its rifle is just, or a pistol is just one tiny explosion. So,
isn't it insane though that it got banned because even however many decades ago, some moron politician just watched too much 007, where he fires his Walther with a suppressor on it, and 15 feet away, nobody knows that it was anything even happened.
Exactly.
Never mind the sound of the action. Never mind the crack of a supersonic round. It's just,
I love hearing it in movies. It's just dead silence. Yeah, exactly.
It's been the same sound since GoldenEye on Nintendo 64.
That's right. That's exactly the sound we're talking about from Gold. That video game from the late 90s, man.
Oh my God.
Even with night hunting, coyotes would be much easier to hunt at night.
Mm-hmm.
And then I understand, but our laws were written when you couldn't really afford thermals or night vision. But now that thermals and night vision are getting popular, I don't have a concern with it because my thought process, you can't see your target and what's beyond it. But if you have night vision or a thermal, you would be able to see that and in theory be able to hunt at night.
Yeah.
Our problem is technology is going to move faster than our laws will ever keep up to.
Our government will never move faster than technology.
No.
Nope.
Well,
I
I
was looking
mean-
today at Tenda. They have thermal scopes like a 2 to 6 for $1,400.
That's so cool.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow, that's pretty
I had to be
impressive.
the adult and say no.
No for now.
Well, I mean, it's not just guns that we look at how the government is, and every government is always going to be behind. I mean, look at what happened with the dark web. Look at what happened with torrenting. Look what happened with crypto. You know, nowhere is technology moving faster than in the computer and internet realm, and we're not even close to. But that's a problem, though, when we have governments like ours, because even just look at what they're doing, trying to regulate the internet.
Yeah.
And podcasts.
Yeah,
And
that's nuts.
podcasts. Yeah. Now,
That's
to be fair, the Canadian government and the CRTC have been ensuring that Canadians put up with subpar entertainment for a very long time. It's just,
Except our
it's just-
government-funded entertainment.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
If you
Yeah.
make something good, people will watch it.
absolutely.
That's always been my thing, you know, like take all the money that the CRTC has put into all that regulation over the last however many decades and put it into funding producing good television.
Yeah,
And
makes
that
sense.
happened for a while. The CRTC regulations really were irrelevant for quite a while in the early 2000s. And we started, even in the 90s, we started seeing even major American productions were being filmed in Canada. You know, we like things like the X-Files were filmed, you know, in British Columbia and all that sort of stuff. We started having Canadian, entirely Canadian television shows that were worldwide that were filmed. You know, look at Corner Gas, filmed in
Oh, yeah.
Saskatchewan. Look at
Corner Gas,
Trailer
Red
Park
Green,
Boys.
Kim's
Trailer Park
Convenience,
Boys,
All the Americans
Trailer
love
Park Boys.
Trailer Park
Yeah.
Boys.
Sons of Butcher.
Yeah.
What's it called? Letterkenny.
Yes, that's
Yeah.
a popular one.
But now with the tightening of all these CRTC regulations again, a lot of those shows they wouldn't pass the mustard with those regulations. Like, for example, because they're not specifically Canadian content.
Fair enough, eh?
Like you look at Corner Gas. Corner Gas could just as easily have taken place in North Dakota as Saskatchewan.
Yeah, you'd never know.
You know, Trailer Park Boys could just as easily have been taken somewhere in bumfuck Georgia.
Yep.
You know, or it could have been anywhere. And Canadian television was really having success with that worldwide. But that's somehow not good enough. It has to be specifically Canadian, and we can't have suppressors to bring it back.
I would even pay
a
$50
U-turn.
to own a suppressor.
Mhm.
What's that?
Like there's a bunch of places it's like you have to pay a fee to
A
own
tax
a suppressor.
or something, yeah.
Like in
Yeah, they have a tax
Like, I
stamp.
think-
Yeah.
the US has that, the UK has that, I believe. Denmark, if it's a 22, you can buy it over the counter. France, it's mandatory to hunt with a suppressor. South Africa, I think you can just buy them. Like, there are other countries that have really cool laws. That's why if we're gonna bring in suppressors, we should just call it European style gun laws, and no one will look into it.
Oh, absolutely.
You just I think Estonia, you can still buy machine guns if you know the police chief well. That's a European country. Like, we're just bringing
Well,
in European style gun laws. No one's
I'm
gonna
not
look.
sure about that though.
We're just
I
cherry
know the
picking.
police chief, so I can have
Yeah.
a fully automatic firearm.
It's Eastern Europe with cash. You can get what you want.
Yeah, that's fair. We really should though take a look at all of those European models and just take what's good from those because you're right that there are a lot of European countries that have some really good legislation. They all have some garbage legislation, and name something that a government is involved in that isn't going to be a mixed bag.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of things that are proven safe, that are proven effective, that are good for the community. Just adopt those things.
Yeah, absolutely. And hope the government doesn't say, well, since you guys want all that, why don't we go all the way and just go completely European?
Yeah, they don't have to say which European. We just have to say European.
Fair.
Yeah, a European and cherry pick.
Yes.
Just don't go Moscow European.
Yeah, don't go that way.
I mean,
Yeah.
they're shaking in their boots that they're going to get all the GSG 16s turned against them.
God. Yeah.
Could you imagine? You know that like Putin's calling up Trudeau and he's like, so you're going to send those guns to Ukraine, right? No, you promised. You did promise you were going to send them.
Taking pink plinkers from kids. Jeez.
Yeah.
I mean,
I'd rather you send 22 semi-automatics than like Javelin missiles. So like, go ahead.
Yeah, exactly.
Which also the travesty, the Canadian government's only paying you $2,300 for your Javelin missile. I think they retail at about $217,000 for just the rocket, and then I think $249,000 with the launcher as one.
Did you see Ian Runkle's video? He brought up one of the high guns on the higher end. It was the
Purdy
double barrel shotgun.
$118,000.
Yes,
I think those are retailing well above $250 Canadian.
Are they really?
Yes.
Oh
so
yeah,
they're paying you half.
Isn't
But that's 100.
You know what though?
Do you know?
I wish I had 3 of them.
Nurses
I would sell them
like,
and pay off my mortgage.
Teachers. Wait, you don't have 3?
Yet?
No.
Yeah.
There are 2 guns I missed the boat on: SKS and the Purdy.
The
Purdy double barrel.
Yeah,
it's like the duality of man. I have the SKS, I have the Purdy.
Can you imagine how much money they could put into like actual resources to stop this gun crime while they're buying all of these $100,000 guns?
Considering it's probably a trauma ER surgeon that owns that Purdy double rifle when he goes to Africa twice a year to hunt.
Yeah, legitimately.
Speaking of the buyback, most people are probably aware that the government has put out the applications for business returns.
Yes.
A couple things that I did not know about that. It only is good for May 1st OIC guns right now.
Correct. So that does in fact include everything that was put on the list prior to that announcement on, I think it was December 6th. Because before that announcement, I believe there was like 2,093 models that were actually on that list. So that includes all of those guns, just not the 324 that were just announced.
And what a kick in the ass that is for like Kodiak and Sterling International, and
they will be able to get compensation for those, but I don't think they're going to have pricing until well into the new year. So they don't really know what they can compensate them.
Win the election after the election.
Yeah, let's hope.
Wink.
So I believe TACOM JR said the Sterling is worth $32,000 US approximately. So that's a price that the government can stick with per unit.
Yeah,
that's right. Well, the first production run of Sterling R18 Mark IIIs were literally in the air when the ordering council dropped. They arrived in country early the next week.
That's insane.
And Sterling had to scramble because this is the other thing too. So they obviously had their import permits already filled out, but apparently there's a section in the import permit for what is the classification of the firearm you're importing.
Okay.
So their application was for, you'll know all about this, Jen. I'm not telling you anything new, I'm sure, right? Their application was for importing non-restricted firearms. So they had to scramble and reapply just to get their import permits so that they could actually get them into the country still, and they weren't turned around and shipped right back to country of origin with no compensation whatsoever.
Insane, because the classification changed overnight with no warning.
Mid-transport.
How fair is that? Yeah, there's a lot of people that, a lot of these retailers like order these firearms half a year out, and they had, Ruger PCs on the way to their shop right as the announcement was made. Like, and now they're stuck with all of this inventory that they're completely losing money on.
Well, Kodiak's stuck with a pile of billet aluminum in a corner going, how do we classify that?
Yeah.
And
Well,
I think
actually-
they got the Gen 3. I think they got that right after fondling it at TACOM. Like the Gen 3 looks like it will run
They
perfectly.
finally, yeah. They got the third iteration correct.
But I heard a rumor that the Gen 3s, they will be able to sell the uppers still. So they can at least still make parts.
Something.
Yeah, I've heard as long as they've been there was some sort of previous regulation or legislation or something. And Jen, if you know about this, like fill in the blanks or correct me if you know. But apparently there was some sort of regulation or legislation that said that once even the raw material has been procured for that purpose, it
Yes.
becomes what it is going to be made into. So, for example, all this billet aluminum, if Kodiak is sitting around with a whole bunch of non-machined aluminum, if they purchased that aluminum for the purposes of turning them into the uppers, the lowers, the whatever
part.
then they will be able to just hand in raw aluminum and get compensated as though they were the uppers or lowers. Is that how you understand it too, Jen?
Yeah, that's kind of how I understand it as well. And I think that was sort of to try and combat ghost gun building. Because, once you're making a gun, but then it makes no sense whenever you're attacking legal businesses and you're trying to compensate them for all of this material.
It's bonkers.
I would greatly change the calculation on how much waste goes into the machining.
Yeah, exactly.
Of that aluminum. It's like, no, I have 100%.
We've got finely tuned machines. We are able to keep 98% weight with our uppers.
Definitely.
Yeah.
They're just gonna drive inflation is bad enough. They're just driving up the price of aluminum.
Yeah, I suppose.
Not my first concern, but okay.
Well, no, it's a tertiary effect of all of this, where we could spend money on the border because they check every 100,000 train cars coming into the country, but we're gonna buy aluminum back at double market price.
It's just
Here's one thing I actually am glad about, though.
Sorry to interrupt you, but if they send the aluminum back, the melters are like, it's already in a block. That's my job. Yeah. My job is to melt the metal and make it into a block.
They're cutting my grass.
Still a block.
But you know what? Just turn it around. Melt once, sell twice. That's all. That's all they need to know. One thing I'm actually a little bit glad about with all this, despite the fact that it's our tax dollars that are paying for it, is these guys, for example, if they've got partially machined or just raw billeted aluminum that's already been purchased, they're getting, what was it, $400 and some odd if it was intended to be a lower, which you want to talk about above market value. It's 400. It was 400 and something per lower, I think, plus $250 per unit administration fee.
Yeah, I don't know. I've heard that the admin fee isn't populating when they try and submit a lower, but the $250, that applies to any firearm that they submit. So that's $250 admin fee times however many firearms that they're claiming. That is gonna inflate the cost.
It makes me wonder, though. I haven't spoken with anybody who is doing their applications right now, or who is and who isn't. I've only seen the same copy of the link to the site that everyone else has seen.
Yeah.
So I don't have any insider information on this, and I'm specifically not trying to bother the people that I know in the industry because I think they're busy enough right now. So it's entirely speculation on my part, but I hope that they don't have any hassle with that. I hope that they can turn what would have been like a $50 chunk of aluminum into $650+ for their sake. Because a lot of these guys are sitting on millions of dollars of inventory, have been for over 5 years, or for about 5 years, and not even just that they're sitting on millions of dollars worth of inventory. They're sitting on millions of dollars worth of inventory, and some of them haven't had the place to store it. Some of them have been paying for storage.
Yep.
You know,
That's the thing.
that's insane. The cost that retailers and distributors and manufacturers have eaten over the last 4.5 years
To store
is,
and insure these prohibited firearms, it's
the insurance. You're right. I never even
yeah.
thought of that.
And to keep them secure in, their building, whatever building they're being stored in, because these are firearms, like they're these dangerous prohibited rifles. Yeah, it's nuts. Like these people they need the money so that they can buy stock that they can actually sell.
Yeah.
I feel like that's kind of the double whammy of the most recent ban. It's like they synchronize the two for a reason. Specifically, it's like any remaining stock that is, undesirable in looks and
The public
function
eyes
is going to be gone, and to nudge you down the path of selling your formerly May 2020 OIC firearm back to the government. We are going to start the business buyback confiscation program.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, especially with a lot of these new firearms that were just announced, like there's a lot of extremely popular models that are huge sellers, huge money makers for these businesses. So they see that hard hit and all that revenue loss. And yeah, it's looking a little less optimistic.
Well, it's
like all the time and development too. Like we finally got the AR-18 where it's like a reliable platform because the AR has 60 years and had government money behind it. We kind of grassroots restarted the 180 platform because originally they were not machined, they were stamped.
Okay.
We finally get them to a reliable point and they're like, no, you can't have that anymore.
Yeah. And after being approved to do these, like to manufacture them, to sell them, like they get approval and then overnight it's just prohib.
Most
my
of the
ambitions of
Canadian
winning
guns
the
were
gas gun
all
division.
developed. Sorry, most of the 180 guns were all developed under the May Ordering Council. Really, you're talking about the Gen 1 180C and the MCR that were designed prior to the May 1 OIC. You've got the Raven, you've got all of the Crew Arms guns, you've got the R18 Mark II, you've got the Gen 2 180C. All of those guns were done after May 1, 2020, and they were all done specifically to meet the government's regulations at the time, before they started moving goalposts again.
Exactly. That's the big thing, the moving goalposts, because they're trying to abide by the law and then all of a sudden it's not good enough.
Yeah, it's bonkers.
And if they were smart about it, like with the 308 series semi-autos, once they got to the market, in theory, you wouldn't sell as many guns because, I just take my upper, pop 2 pins, I have a new gun. You'd in theory be selling less guns. There would be less guns in Canada, which is technically what they want, and then we could still hunt with them. Like with a 308, 22-250, 308, 6.5 Creedmoor. What do you not need for that in Canada?
Yeah.
It covers every base.
Which is why they were getting so popular before May 1st. There was a real industry popping up around,
Stag
308, 6.5. Well, Stag, the Maple Ridge M762D, which never really did hit the market, because just as they were putting it on the market was when the May 1st Ordering Council came out. You had the BCL 102s, if that had continued unabated, you would have seen all the other Canadian companies jumping on that. It was on its way to becoming an extremely popular hunting rifle in Canada.
Well, the Grizzly just released 308 this year.
Yeah.
I got to touch it. It was great.
Yeah. Well, and Crew Arms, is it the Crusader? No. Crusaders? They're supposed to be their 308?
Nope, they've had one for a while, the Crux. I think you get them 308, 6.5 Creedmoor.
Yeah, but it's called the Crusader, isn't it?
Crux, I believe, is their designation.
Is it? That's what they called it? I thought Crux, the Templar was the 5.56 and the Cruz. What's the Crux? What? What's a Crux?
That's the 308 version of the Templar.
No, I know, but what's a Crux? No, I'm good.
It's the crux of the thing, Chris.
So that's what it is. Okay. We were talking about the business buyback.
Yeah.
Can we talk about literally the only controversy that CSAAA has ever been involved in?
Absolutely. Definitely.
Okay. So the CSAAA took some heat. Wes, specifically, the
Yeah.
president.
He is the president of the CSAAA.
President.
I'll admit, I did contribute to some of that heat. I'll admit it. I was wrong.
It's okay.
You take that.
Admonish me. I take it back. Admonish me.
So what we're talking about here is the CSAAA was approached to liaise, I suppose. Is that a fair way to put it?
So they originally had the price structure released. It kind of like broke up all of the firearms into that May 2020 ban into like categories. They were going to give like, I don't remember the exact numbers. It's still online somewhere, I believe, like $1,000 for a general AR. Anything that was a 50 BMG, they would give like a flat rate of $1,500, basically peanuts compared to what a lot of these makes and models are actually worth.
Right.
So since we've always been in constant communication with the government, trying to lobby against other provisions or other regulations that are anti-gun, they asked us, like, what does this pricing model mean to you guys? And we said that's absolutely ridiculous. If you're going to, the amnesty wasn't pushed yet. If you guys are actually going to force businesses to relinquish their firearms for compensation and you're going to give them peanuts for that, that's like not going to happen. That's unfair. Nobody's going to abide by that. So yeah, these businesses were scrambling for fair compensation. And we said, we can show you what that compensation looks like, show you the true value of these firearms. And then we had to enter a contract, of course, like any other work you do with the government. The announcement that was made was obviously very misleading with Mendocino, making it seem like we're buddies and, this is a great thing. They're helping us. They're promoting this. Not in the slightest. And then unfortunately from there was, some misleading information that might have been shared. And I feel like people just kind of knew enough to get angry, but not enough to really know why they're angry and maybe that they shouldn't be angry. So with time, we were just able to kind of educate people like, listen, we're not advocating for more gun bans. We're not helping them progress this confiscation program because everybody on that board would rather absolutely die than help with any of this. I mean, they're volunteers. They don't need that shit.
Gun store, for God's sake.
Exactly. Like he is the person that's the most against this stuff. 100%. And like, these are all like these industry people, they're all friends. It's all their friends that they're working with. They're not going to be working to throw their friends and clientele under the bus for volunteer work. So yeah, I feel like I've read a lot of crazy rumors that I don't even know where they came from, but it's funny how social media works like that. That we're just there to be the voice for the businesses. Businesses say that they need fair compensation, and that's what we worked for.
I think this is what happened, what the CSAAA experienced in terms of that backlash. I think should be, and it's not talked about, and it should be talked about, and people should be talking about it every time somebody brings up the CSAAA and says fuck those guys. They should be reminded that what those people are doing is exactly what anti-gunners do to the rest of the community. They are too ignorant to know better, too apathetic to inform themselves or to learn about what they're talking about, and too ready to condemn and form an opinion.
That's exactly what it looks like, honestly. And it's really, really sad to see because, I mean, Wes gets all the flack because he's the face of the organization. He's talking to the media. He's the one that, they pull up CSAAA's page and they see he's the president. Like, people didn't think twice. The second that announcement was made by Mendocino, my phone was ringing off the hook with people cursing me out. I was getting literal death threats. People on the board were getting death threats because they just...
How do people not know that guy was full of shit?
Right? Like, I'm like... Sir, you're taking Mendocino's word over people that work in the industry and they're volunteers and they've got like everything to lose for a volunteer of It's more of a
Like
peanut
all of a
butter
sudden,
than
his words
anything.
are gospel. Like I don't understand that at all.
Yep, exactly. I mean,
Politician, tell the truth.
right? The
Well,
one time,
especially Mendocino. Like I mean,
Yeah.
they chose they have multiple times in a row now. They have chosen a very particular breed to be the minister of public safety.
I know.
Incompetent.
Not just incompetent, but like completely amoral. Willing to lie. We're talking like forked tongue. Like it's the last three of them have just been something else.
Man, I'll do the
Immoral.
job for half the price.
Yeah, but you can't be honest. That's not allowed.
Oh,
I
I'd be
actually
so
could not do
honest.
that job. I
I wouldn't
couldn't
be
do
in it
that job.
long, but I'd be honest about it.
They
Yeah.
don't like that.
No.
Maybe if it's conservatives get in.
So as crazy as it is, social media has been a flutter again with, I've seen multiple mentions of the CSAAA and people like, like, fuck those guys. I'll never support anyone, blah, 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 blah. So here's what I'd like to say about it. I'm not much of an insider. I'm lucky enough that through this podcast, I've got to meet and even become friends with multiple all of the above retailers, manufacturers, and distributors within this country. And you've got individual, I'm going to call them FUDs, who don't actually know much about the industry, don't know anything about business in general, who are condemning these business owners and the CSAAA, and they have no idea. As bad as it's been for us as individuals, and I've got over $30,000 now worth of Safe Queens,
That's it.
with including this latest one, and I fully understand that I'm not like I don't have that many guns. I fully understand that there are individual owners that are over 100,000 that are Safe Queens from this ban, but I've talked to a couple of business owners who are in the millions on this
Absolutely.
stuff. The
Definitely.
millions. And all of my Safe Queens that are worth, a little over 30K or whatever it happens to be at the moment. I don't have to pay for storage. I don't have to pay for additional insurance. I don't have to pay for anything. I just can't use it. And it pisses me off that I've spent over $30,000 and I don't have the enjoyment of the property that I spent that money on. I could have built a fucking garage for that amount of money. But it's not millions of dollars, like
Absolutely.
if we just take a look at the first production run of the Mark IIIs or the first production run of the Gen 3 Kodiaks, we're probably talking, like I would estimate on the low end, we're talking over $500,000 each. And
That's just manufacturing, not
Yeah.
all the
that's
other
right.
work behind that.
That's right. We're not talking
That-
about all of the R&D that went into them. We're not talking about the time and administrative costs, all of those things. And it just chaps my ass. We like to be so high and mighty in our industry, but we have, I guess it's the great thing, but it's always a double-edged sword. We have people of all walks of life and all different types of people and stripes and political leanings and religions and cultures and all that in the gun industry, and that's amazing. The double-edged sword of that is we also have like people who, for all their screaming about how the liberals are communists, are pretty fucking Marxist themselves. And they're like, you know what? Fuck business. Oh, you're a businessman? Oh, you're only making your money off the backs of me and my people. You're like, what the? How do you reconcile
How do we
those
get
two viewpoints in your world?
Yeah.
Like how are gun owners not like fully on board and recognizing?
I feel like there's just such an emotional aspect to the whole gun case. Like, I don't know. Like CSAAA refused to even answer a single question about anything individual related, because we get like, there's an emotional attachment to our firearms. Of course, people don't
Sure.
want to give them up. Whole different can of worms. CSAAA just wanted to make sure businesses are going to be safe and able to actually make it until maybe these regulations get reversed. Because I spent the entire day on Friday after that announcement talking to businesses that were telling me now they've lost tens to hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of stock just in this latest firearm prohibition. The economy's already crap. Business operations are extremely expensive. They're close to closing the doors and laying off staff already, so they need this compensation. So,
Yeah.
I mean, I see
right before Christmas during a Canada Post strike where
too, they can't put most of their guns.
I know my personal shopping has changed because of that.
Definitely.
So,
they're hard hit from all angles. I mean, I've seen a couple of comments in random posts of people saying, I want the names of businesses that participate. And I have to say, like, I will never fault a business for relinquishing unsellable inventory, because that's what it is, that they're paying money to store and keep so that they can keep the doors open, keep employees employed, and buy guns that they can actually sell back to consumers.
Also, this got to think a lot of that stock too is like 2018, 2019 era.
Yeah.
Like half of them ARs are key mod. Like smelt. I'm sorry, but smelt the key mod.
Yeah,
a bunch of that stuff is key mod still. Like they're sitting on key mod. Nobody's gonna buy it.
Yeah.
Well,
nobody's gonna buy it anymore.
Yeah.
No. Well, there's even a trickle-down effect, because like us, as the podcast, would like to review the firearms. If we don't have all of the 5 firearms we previewed at TACOM to review,
true.
That's videos we cannot no longer produce that the community can watch and build the community. There's a trickle-down effect.
Even YouTube doesn't want that content, let alone the government.
Yeah. It is a ripple effect everywhere. Like even
but it's important to build the community.
Yes,
that's right.
Definitely.
As far as I'm concerned, half the gun community communicates by telegraph.
I mean, probably.
Ding, 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 ding.
You're not wrong.
I think you go to a range, definitely.
That's going to be a drinking game. Every time Mike says the gun community communicates by telegraph, you have to take a drink. Because I don't think, like, the last 6 episodes I've said that.
He's going
but
for
I truly do believe it. Being in different, like, parts of the community, like, we went to TACOM. Different vibe. Yeah. I help out with our local gun show. That's a different vibe. I go to a PRS match. That's a different vibe. So I kind of see all the different little communities. I'm like, people need to read a bit more.
Yes. So, we can be our own worst enemy sometimes.
We can. Like some people are fine. Like, I've used the same box of ammo for 20 years, and a minute of pie plate is good enough for me when I'm hunting, and I'm just, please stop talking.
I know. I actually knew a guy that would try and sight in his rifle for deer, and he would take like 5 shots at a target that's like 12 inches big, and you hit it once and he's like, oh, we're good to go. I'm like, in what world?
Just zero your 300 Win Mag 3 inches high for the deer you're going to blast at 75 yards. I'm like, do you know exactly what you just said?
Spray and pray. Yeah, it's diverse.
We need to do a better job of policing our own, but not being too rude at the same time. There's a very fine balance. That
I disagree with that. I think we don't need more policing. I think we've had enough policing. I think what we need is
ourselves.
No, I understand. Mentors. I don't need green police in our community. I hate it when I see somebody posting a video and buddy's like, oh, finger a little early on that trigger there, hey bud. Like, go fuck yourself. You weren't there. You're like, take your head out of your ass and go downstairs, have a Coke and a smile, and shut the fuck up.
There is a lot of that. Yeah.
I think we need, and I understand what you're saying, Mike. I don't think you actually mean policing. I don't think, but I do think we don't need more policing. We need more mentoring.
Yeah.
That's more of a semantics thing.
Yeah.
But there's it's a distinction with a very important difference. So policing is telling people what to do, making people do what you want them to do. Mentoring is giving people the right path to follow and just allowing them to follow it.
Giving them the tools to make the right decision.
Right.
We had a situation like that at another range. Because I'm a member of multiple ranges, so this isn't tied to one specific range, but some guys were pretending they were John Wick on the handgun
Oh
range.
God.
So we went from we're just gonna ban holstering of pistols across the board for everybody, and then make it where you need a black badge, which I understand black badge is its own thing. That's a different issue. You need a black badge to holster. I'm like, so if I'm shooting cowboy action, and I've been shooting here for quite a while, I now have to go get a black badge to keep shooting my handgun here. When we could have just said, we're going to bring in an instructor who is competent because there are plenty of firearms trainers who will come to your range and teach you how to not be an idiot.
Absolutely.
We could have said, your membership is revoked until you take a class with this individual.
Mm-hmm.
There's plenty of opportunities where we could teach people what they did wrong, why they did wrong, and mentor them through. Because I had that problem myself. Some of my first hunts were not exactly the most successful until someone mentored me about, Mike, this is why you're an idiot.
Mm-hmm.
And I learned from that, and I've moved on from there. But people need to be more willing to mentor people. I think, Chris, you kind of hit the nail on the head. That's a good point.
I like that. Absolutely.
It is fully admitting, though, it's a bit of a catch-22 because there's a real fine line. Like safety is required in our community, but it's a fine line between safety and just control.
Fair. Yeah. And we see so much control from government entities that I think the second anyone gets kind of told what to do or they feel like they're being told what to do, they shut down.
Yeah. And that's the fully understanding that's a hard tightrope to walk.
Can I throw wildlife federations under the bus?
You can throw mine under the bus.
I'm not going to name specific wildlife federations, but some of the wildlife, how do I put it? More modern shooters need to infiltrate their local wildlife federation. I'll put it like that.
That is not always an easy thing to do.
No, it is not. It is very hard, and you're going to be stuck there for a while, but everybody needs to do it.
Yeah.
Legacy gatekeeping is strong in every community, including ours. It's not going to change. Yeah. And none of this has anything to do with Jen. So we're just kind of.
It doesn't, because I'm sure Jen sees this every day.
Absolutely.
The views expressed by the Ballistically Speaking podcast do not necessarily represent Jen McDonald or the CSAAA.
I'm just along for the ride.
And we like to go on tangents.
That's
well,
good.
we're also at the 2-hour mark, Jen. So why don't we say, before we say something stupid, why don't we give you the last word? What do you think that the public needs to know the most about that you're involved in, and how can they find you, CSAAA, etc.? How can they support the CSAAA?
Absolutely. So, I mean, like I've mentioned, we're the business group, so we don't like to pull from the consumer groups or the civilian individual groups by, pulling any financial support, but just educating yourself. I mean, if you see something on the internet that doesn't seem quite right from an organization that's supposed to represent gun businesses, maybe it's not quite right, so do your research.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, honestly, like I'm so proud to be on with that association. Like the work this board does is just phenomenal to try and protect these businesses. You can find CSAAA at CSAAA official on Instagram, YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, and we share what's going on in the industry, regulatory, our Legends banquets, some good news, if there is any. So you can stay up to date that way to just sort of know what the people that you go to buy your guns from are actually dealing with. And me personally, I'll just be, when I'm not working, hunting and fishing and trying to make food out of the animals that I hunt and fish. And I'm at Jen DVC on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter. Jen McDonald. Jen Gadbois on Facebook, because I can't change my name yet because they don't like me posting gun things. So I'm in Facebook jail a little bit.
Are you seriously? That's hilarious.
Yeah. My page is in Facebook jail, kind of. I can't change certain things or do certain things on there.
That's hilarious. And don't forget the Horrible People podcast.
Yes, the Horrible People podcast. I completely forgot about that because we wound down for season 1, season 2. I'm going to be launching that in the new year with a bit of a new swing to it. So we've got some pretty cool guests that are actually from the hunting and firearms community that are also othered. I'll use Travis's word, or set aside from the rest of the community for other reasons. So yeah, it'll be super educational. And if you want to catch up on the other podcast episodes, I think it's definitely worth it. Like you were saying, the one with Jen Shears on the seal hunt was really educational. Lots of really good knowledge there.
Fantastic.
Not gonna lie, Jen, all of your guests have been fantastic so far. I listen to the podcast all the time.
Thank you.
So.
I appreciate that. Yeah, I love all the people that I've had on are just brilliant. Love them.
Well,
I got
that you've
really
had
lucky.
Jen, Wes, all of them. They both good episodes.
That was fun. Wes going into the bull riding and everything like that. Yeah, that's pretty cool.
Well, thanks, Jen, for being on the show with us tonight. And thanks, everybody, for joining us. Guys, make sure you check out the show, bspodcast.ca on Facebook, facebook.com/BS podcast. You can leave a review, let us know how we're doing. If you want to send us an email, it's info@bspodcast.ca. You can email the Banyak boys directly, Mike and Derek, BANYAK @bspodcast.ca. And as always, a massive thank you to all of our sponsors and to all of our viewers. Without you guys, there wouldn't be a show in the first place. We're talking about Shane and Steve, Miles, Carrie and Cappy, Duncan and Rob, Phil, Doug and Nisa, Vanya and Carly, Oscar and JR. Thank you all an immeasurable amount. And Jen, you rock, and it's always fun having you on. The problem is there's too many cool people in our industry, and we have people we have them on, then we don't see them for a couple of years, and we suck at keeping in touch with people. But thank you for coming on. It's great to talk to you again. You don't go to SHOT Shoot too often though, hey?
No, I won't be there this year. Hopefully next year.
Hopefully next year. Okay, we might have to try to come to TACOM and maybe we'll see you at TACOM next year. I'm sure Mike and Derek are going to go again for sure, eh? Boys?
Oh, yeah. Definitely. Good. I'm definitely going to have TACOM this year.
Well, hopefully I'll be able to make it too. All right, that's going to do it for this week, guys. Join us next week. We should have for twice in just 3 weeks, we should have Daniel Fritter on. Is that right, guys?
Awesome.
I believe Dan said he would come on next episode.
And we're going to be talking, I'm not going to tell everybody what we're going to be talking about, but you will not want to miss this episode. It is going to be a really, really interesting episode with Dan, if I do say so myself, unless we all just shit the bed on it. But I don't think that's going to happen. I think
I'm looking forward to listening to that one.
We're going to show up on game day, Jen. That's what we do.
That's
all right, so we'll see everybody next Friday. Jen, again, thank you for coming on, and keep fighting the good fight. And we'll see everybody else next week.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
But some of these bullets, as you saw, have an incendiary device on the tip of it, which is a heat-seeking device.
What you just said is one of the most insanely idiotic things I have ever heard. Everyone in this room is now dumber for having listened to it.
Welcome to your weekly dose of BS, the Ballistically Speaking podcast.